15 you're thinking? Or you think we are, I don't have a lot of notes after that. I do, oh wait, I do have something on, but I was reading ahead of that, so I don't know. Someone just tell me where we're starting. Let me read this here. No, I don't think I read this.
I don't think either.
9 to 14.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we are on chapter 8, verse 9 to 14. And I don't know what that number 4 there is
I
for.
don't either. I was just look at that.
I don't know what that is for. Oh, okay. There's a note number 4. His name is pronounced Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus, Antiochus, and Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. All right, as we've already seen, and this is what is that, number 4? Roman numeral 4. The one with the V after it, isn't that 4?
Yes, where are you at though?
I'm on top of 1374 in Worsby.
You subtract 1 from a V and you get 4.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
so-
9 to 14.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so if the one is before the V though, it's 4. Okay.
Yes. Oh.
Okay, as we have already seen, after the death of Alexander the Great, which would have been the notable horn in verse 5, his empire was divided into 4 parts, with 4 of his officers taking control in verse 8. Out of one of these horns, a little horn appears who becomes a great leader. So that's 9.
This is here, that.
Okay, 9. I gotta move my notes here. Okay, the little horn. Where is this at? 4 big horns. Another horn sprouted. Okay, I got that marked. This was Antiochus Epiphanes, the ruler of Syria, from 175 to 163. Okay, so that's probably a good note. Should I put that on the board? I think I probably should.
The big horn that broke off was Babylon, no?
The big horn that broke off was Alexander the Great. He died
was,
early.
He was the big horn.
He was, and then the 4 little horns that came out of that were those 4 leaders: Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Antipater or Cassandra. Because I saw Antipater and Cassandra being, so I don't know if they called him both names or what, but so this one is coming out of that. So he was a ruler from 175 to 163. And known as one of the cruelest tyrants in history. Antiochus gave himself the name Epiphanes, which means illustrious manifestation. Illustrious or manifestation. For he claimed to be a revelation or an epiphany of the gods. He even had the word theos or God put on the coins minted with his features on it, and his features on the coins came to look more and more like the Greek god Zeus. He had a passionate desire to turn the Jews into good Greeks. One of his first acts was to drive out the high priest Onias, Onias, an ardent Jew, and replace him with Jason, a patron of the saints. But Jason was replaced by Menelaus, Menelaus, who actually purchased the priesthood. Oh man. Believing a rumor that the king was dead, Jason attacked Jerusalem only to learn that Antiochus was very much alive. The angry king attacked Jerusalem, plundered the temple. In 168, he sent an army of 20,000 men under Apollonius to level Jerusalem. They entered the city on the Sabbath. Interesting, because isn't that what just happened? murdered most of the men, took the women and children as slaves. The remaining men fled to the army of the Jewish leader Judas Maccabees. That's all important, I think. Okay, but the king wasn't satisfied, so he issued an edict that there would be one religion in his realm, and it wouldn't be the Jewish religion. He prohibited the Jews from honoring the Sabbath, practicing circumcision, and obeying the Levitical dietary laws. And he climaxed his campaign, are you ready? On December 14th, 168, by replacing the Jewish altar with an altar to Zeus and sacrificing a pig on it, which would have been against the Jews. Any Jew found possessing a copy of the law of Moses was slain. Jerusalem was eventually delivered by the courageous exploits of Judas Maccabeus and his followers. And on December 14th, 165, the temple was purified, the altar of burnt offering restored, and the Jewish worship once again restored. It is this event that the Jewish people celebrate as the Feast of Lights, or Hanukkah. See John 10:22. Antiochus went mad while in Persia, where he died in 163. Knowing these facts about Antiochus helps us to better understand the text of Daniel's prophecy. Antiochus started in a small way, but gradually accumulated power as he magnified himself and dealt ruthlessly with the Jewish people. He attacked the Jews in their pleasant, beautiful land and put a stop to their religious practices. He even claimed that he was a god. In verse 10, is that where it says the horn grew tall, reaching to the stars?
Powers reached to the heaven.
Yeah,
Where it attacked the heavenly army, some of the heavenly beings, some of the stars to the ground and trampling them.
He was even claimed he was God. In verse 10, the Jews were described as the hosts of heaven, godly people, and stars. So, stars. Would be the Jews. Hosts of heaven, is that the heavenly army? Threw some of the stars to the earth and stomped on them?
But didn't Worsby just say that they considered the Jews the heavenly army rededicated?
Yes. Jews are described as the host of heaven, or godly people, and stars, but mine reads funky because it's so the horn grew tall, reaching to the stars, the heavenly army, which is also the Jews, and threw some of the stars to the earth and stomped on them. It dared challenge the power of God, Prince of the celestial army. So this is all Jews. And this is Antiochus. He attacked the Jews and their pleasant blah, 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 describing it, blah, blah, blah. When Antiochus stopped the daily sacrifices in the temple and substituted pagan worship. Now, this does sound like Revelation and the Antichrist there also. So this is history. We need to learn something from it. This was called the abomination that makes desolate, the transgression of desolation in Daniel 8:13. This concept is founded in 927, 1131, and 1211, and is used by Jesus in Matthew 24:15 and Matthew 13:14. What Antiochus did was a foreshadowing of what the Antichrist will do when he puts his image in the temple and commands the world to worship him. Daniel 8:13 and 11:31 refer to Antiochus. The other references to Antichrist, of whom Antiochus is a picture. I think that's an important thing. The two angels in 13 and 14, I guess also known as saints, spoke together about this matter, and from their conversation, Daniel learned the prophetic timetable. Between the desecration of the temple and its cleansing and restoration, 2,300 days would pass. The Hebrew text reads evenings and mornings, because the burnt offerings were sacrificed at the temple each morning and evening of every day. But does this mean that 2,300 days or 1,150 days, which is 2,300 days divided by 2? And what date or event signals the beginning of the countdown? Some students opt for 2,300 days, that is about 6 years, if you use a 360 days for the year. Others prefer the 1,150 days, which gives us slightly over 3 years. But what is the starting point for the countdown? The 6-year advocates begin with 171 BC, when Antiochus deposed the true high priest. If you subtract 6 years, this takes you to 165, when Judas Maccabeus defeated the enemy and reconsecrated the temple. However, the 3-year advocates begin with the establishment of the pagan altar in the temple on 25 Kislev, which must be their month, 168. This takes us to 165. Either approach meets the requirements of the prophecy. We'll meet Antiochus Epiphanes again when we complete our study of the book of Daniel. So we need to add him, I guess.
So he did not be Antipater.
No, Antipater was one of the 4 leaders under, but then he comes in, okay, what was the date on that? Because you guys are gonna have to help me write the information down. He came in, he ruled Syria from 175 to 163. And then it says he came in when? 168, he plundered Jerusalem. But was he remaining under the Grecian, or was he, because we go from Alexander the Great, who was Grecian, to Roman rule? But he was ruling Syria. He died in 163. We have December 14th. Can you guys read these things off to me? Caitlin? Can you read these things off to me?
Yes.
Or Kathy? Okay, so we have. Oh,
Sorry, I was down here trying to process the bottom. What am I reading to you?
Okay, so Antiochus Epiphanes.
Okay,
Yes, first-
he was a ruler of Syria from one.
First.
Antioch.
Wait a minute. Antiochus.
Yes.
HUS.
Or one.
One.
B.
Mm-hmm.
EPIP.
EPIPH.
Yes. ANES.
Okay, so we know that he ruled Syria. What was the dates on that?
175 to 163 BC.
Okay, and then he named himself Epiphanes, which means like revelation, right?
Illustrious manifestation. Oh, it says, for he claimed to be a revelation, an epiphany of the gods.
Okay, then what's the next set of dates there? He destroyed Jerusalem in 168.
Yes.
BC.
Correct.
Anything else?
I'm reading.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I felt like there was something else. I felt like there was like. He died in 163.
Yes.
Okay, so then when he ruled Syria from 175 to 163, as the ruler of Syria is when he did this in 168.
What do you want? What's purified?
Yes, hang on. In 163. Okay, and then Jerusalem purified in
Lost it now.
Mine says one under Judas Maccabees.
Yeah. There it is.
in what date?
December 14, 165.
Hanukkah.
Well, if he purified it in 165, then that's when Epiphany was still in rule. That's interesting, yeah, because he ruled to 163 when he died. He took it in 168 and destroyed it. So 3 years later, okay, so that was Judas, Judas Maccabees, MACC.
C
C.
ABEUS.
I wonder if that's the book of Maccabees.
I don't know. I was thinking that.
I have notes there where John MacArthur quoted out of Maccabees. So Jerusalem was purified in December 14th of 1965 by Judas Maccabees. Anything else?
Mine didn't.
Oh, then he died.
And then he died. All right, so we're gonna learn more, he said, about that. Okay, what's Tony say?
Are you doing, Tony?
I can. Tony is from 3 through 19. Like Nehemiah after him would do, Daniel immediately prayed to the Lord on behalf of the people. Though he knew what God had said, Daniel wasn't going to presume on God's promise. Rather, he decided to ask God to forgive the wickedness of his people and deliver them. Daniel confessed the people's sins and rebellion, acknowledged that God was righteous to judge them, and begged God for mercy on the people and city called by his name. That's not right. Wrong chapter. Forgive me. Thank goodness it was short. Okay, this is 9 through 14 in chapter 8.
Perfect.
Daniel's attention was directed to a little horn. It emerged from the fore, became great, and turned its fury against Israel, even trying to make itself as great as the prince of the heavenly army, God himself. This figure sounds like the little horn of 7:8 and 24 through 26. But given the details here and those later in Daniel, this appears to be a picture of the brutal and infamous Seleucid ruler Antiochus. Ruler Antiochus, also called Epiphanes. He was one of the 4 rulers who emerged from the divided Greek Empire after Alexander's death.
Okay, wait,
Antiochus,
what happened? Say that again, that last line.
he was one of the 4 rulers who emerged from the divided Greek Empire after Alexander's death.
So was he Antipas then, or Antipater?
Well,
Well, Seleucus I is there.
yeah, I think it must be him. Because didn't this guy come from Syria also?
Oh, yeah.
Did we read that? Okay.
Yes, he did. He was a ruler of Syria.
So I think it's Seleucus I.
Let me see.
Because that is that word that she just spelled
Mm-hmm.
as the,
Is
And it says Antiochus 4.
yeah,
is the same as Seleucus I,
yes.
but that can't, Cause that was 323 when that was handed down. So it has to be maybe. That's like 200 years or
He
150
was one
years.
of the four rulers who emerged from the divided Greek Empire after Alexander's death.
Those dates don't make sense.
Well, we did the best we could.
Cause he ruled from 175 to 163. That's like 100 years later. Okay, you guys keep going. I will look it up.
I'm reading the onlines.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you do that because I'm confused. Antiochus Epiphanes
He was
invaded
Greek.
Israel.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay.
So it's okay. So it says Antiochus Epiphanes, God manifest. It's showing him from 215 to 164. Was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 until his death in 164. He was the son of King Antiochus III the Great, originally named blah blah blah. He assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended the throne. So he came from that kingdom, which would be that Seleucus, right? Yeah, that empire. So he came out of that empire, I think is what they're saying. But he was Greek. So I think we could do a line from, which makes sense. Like Lori said, he moved Syria, so he came out of here. Okay. So we're still in the Greek Empire. Or in the Greek time period. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Antiochus Epiphanes invaded Israel with the purpose of Hellenizing the Jews, trying to force them to accept Greek dress, customs, and religion. He stopped the sacrifices from 168 to 165 BC. 2,300 evenings and mornings, or 1,150 days. He also slaughtered thousands of Jews and desecrated the temple in Jerusalem by erecting a statue of the Greek god Zeus and sacrificing a pig on the altar. Eventually, a band of Jews, led by Judas Maccabees, defeated the Seleucid forces and cleansed the temple, as described in the Jewish book of 1 Maccabees. The rededication of the temple is still celebrated by Jews today during the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, meaning dedication.
Oh, that's what we missed. December 14th, that is now Hanukkah. That's probably important, don't you think?
You read that in Worsby.
I did read that in Worsby, but I didn't mark it on our important notes.
Oh,
So this is celebrated. See, celebrate as Hanukkah. How do you spell that?
HANUKKAH.
H or Feast of Lights.
that's what,
Yes.
that's what his name said, Worsby.
What verse is that in there? Okay. It's kind of interesting.
Antiochus.
14.
It's interesting to learn what these celebrations are that the Jews do.
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
Antiochus appears here not only because he was a prominent figure in Israel's prophetic future, but because he was also a mirror image of the still future little horn of Daniel 7 and the Antichrist.
So what did he say? This was like a shadow of, that's what I want, right? A shadow of the future in Revelation.
Tony says, the still future little horn of Daniel 7, which I know mirrors Revelation, but also in Daniel too.
Say that again. This mirrors, is that what you said?
Yes, it's a mirror image of the still future little horn of Daniel 7.
It is an image, a mirror image of the little horn in Daniel 7.
Yes.
Anybody else got anything else they want to share? Okay, then we'll move on to what would be my 23 through 27. I don't know what you have, Caitlin, because mine already covered like earlier. There's other verses. What does Tony
I
have
have
next?
15 through 17, 18 to 27.
Okay,
and
why don't you
that's it.
go ahead and do yours, because my last section here is
Well, we didn't
23.
read it in the Bible yet,
Oh, I thought we read the whole thing yesterday.
did we?
We can read it again.
Yeah, I think we did.
I'm still
23.
taking notes, so if
did.
somebody
Okay.
else can read that, that's wonderful.
Kathy,
Like the
can you read?
scripture.
She did, here you
Oh, I can read.
Yeah.
I'll read it real quick. 23. As their kingdoms cool down and rebellions heat up, a king will show up, a hard-faced, a master trickster. His power will swell enormously and he will talk big, high-handedly, doing whatever he pleases, knocking off heroes and holy ones left and right. He'll plot and scheme to make crime flourish, and oh, how it will flourish. He'll think he's invincible and get rid of anyone who gets in his way. But when he takes on the prince of all princes, he'll be smashed to bits, but not by human hands. This vision of the 2,300 sacrifices, evening and morning, is accurate but confidential. Keep it to yourself. It refers to the far future. I, Daniel, walked around in a daze, unwell for days. Then I got a grip on myself and I went back to work taking care of the king's affairs. But I continued to be upset by the vision. I couldn't make sense of it. That's 23 to 27.
So you just need Tony read?
Yeah,
I'm going to start at 15 if that's okay.
yeah.
Daniel had a powerful interpreter to help him understand the meaning of his vision, an angel named Gabriel. This is the first time in scripture that an angel is mentioned by name. Gabriel appears once again in the Gospel of Luke, where he announces to the priest Zechariah the coming of John the Baptist and to Mary the coming of Jesus Christ. Gabriel was told to explain the vision to Daniel, who was terrified. In fact, humans in scripture are frequently filled with awe and fear when knowingly in the presence of angels.
That
The
is why
key-
Stan doesn't. That's why Stan does not believe a lot of these testimonies of people who come back and they're like, "Oh, I had this near-death experience and la la la, it was wonderful." And because in scripture, that's not the reaction. In scripture, they fall down in reverence. In scripture, they fall down in fear, not what we see today. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
The key to the vision's interpretation is that it was for the conclusion of the time of wrath, because it refers to the appointed time of the end. Thus, this is the span of time opening with the entry of the times of the Gentiles and ending with Christ's second coming. The two-horned ram represents the kings of Media and Persia, while the shaggy goat represents the king of Greece, Alexander the Great. Theirs are the second.
We have shaggy goat up there. We don't have a shaggy goat.
Mhm.
We do have a goat in Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Theirs are the second and third empires revealed in the book of Daniel. The four horns represent the four leaders, including Antiochus Epiphanes, who divided Alexander's kingdom. Antiochus' demonic reign is prophesied again in 8:23 through 26, and once again mirrors the coming of Antichrist.
He said that that is the four horns, including that goat.
He has to be, because of the dates, he has to be further out. He has to be in the line of kings coming out of Syria. Which, I'm thinking back to when Frederick Schmidt was teaching Revelation. He says that the Antichrist will come out of Syria, like he'll come from Europe, but he'll have a Syrian descent. And it's something in Daniel he read
Say it again.
that he referred to. Frederick Schmidt said, and when we studied Revelation, that the Antichrist to come in Revelation will be European with an Arabic descent coming from Syria. Because it's like the king comes down from, I forget what it was, like the south or whatever. There's a verse that says something that he used. Maybe we'll read it here. I don't know. Okay. I just think with those dates that he would have to be further out. All right, so my 8:23, what did you went to 23, 27?
27.
Okay, the angel awakened Daniel from his deep sleep and told him there was yet more prophetic truth for him to hear, and it related to the time of wrath and the time of the end, which is the time of tribulation. The Old Testament prophets called this period the time of Jacob's trouble and the day of the Lord, the period when God's wrath would be poured out on an evil world. In other words, what Daniel learns in Daniel 8:23 through 27 relates to the end times when Antichrist will oppose God's people. The king of fierce countenance is the Antichrist, not, oh, see, my first study, I did that wrong. So this 23 through 27 is the Antichrist, not Antiochus Epiphanes. But if you compare verses 23 and 27 with verses 9 through 14, you will see the characteristic and career of the Antiochus parallels those of the Antichrist. So this 23 through 27 is the end times, also known as time of wrath, time of the end, Jacob's trouble. The day of the Lord. Both begin modestly but increase in power and influence. Both blaspheme God with mouths that speak great things. Both persecute the Jewish people. Both claim to be gods and put images on in the temple. Both impose their own religion on the people. Both are opposed by a believing remnant that knows God. Both are energized by the devil and are great deceivers. Both appear to succeed marvelously and seem to be invincible. Both are finally defeated by the coming of a Redeemer, Judas Maccabees and Jesus Christ. Many other parallels exist, which you will discover as you study the relevant scriptures. The Prince of Peace, no, the Prince of Princes in verse 25 is Jesus.
Mine says God himself. but
Yeah,
They are.
yeah. Who is also the God of gods
Kings,
and the King of Kings.
Lord.
Antichrist opposes Jesus Christ and seeks to replace him, but ultimately Jesus Christ defeats Antichrist and consigns him, his false prophets, and Satan to the lake of fire in Revelation 20. As a result of this experience of receiving the vision and communing with angels, Daniel became ill. One cause of his physical and emotional collapse was his inability to understand where this vision of the king of fierce countenance, prefigured by the little horn, fit into the prophetic scheme for Israel. He knew that the little horn would appear in the last days, but what would occur between his day and that day? He would learn from Jeremiah's prophecy that his people would be released from bondage and allowed to return to their land and rebuild their temple. But Daniel knew nothing about God's mystery concerning the church in Ephesians 3, 1 through 13, or the mystery concerning the partial blinding and hardening of Israel in Romans 11, 25 through 36. And who was the king of fierce countenance? And why would he attack the Jewish people? Daniel felt the burden of the suffering his people would experience, and he knew the awful consequences of truth being cast to the ground. Daniel is a good example for students of prophecy to follow. He asked the Lord for an explanation in Daniel 8:15 and allowed the Lord to instruct him. But his investigation into God's prophetic program wasn't a matter of satisfying curiosity or trying to appear knowledgeable before others. He was concerned about his people and the work that they had to do on earth. He so identified with what he learned that it made him ill. Too many prophetic students don't wait before God for instruction and insight, nor do they feel burdened when they learn God's truth about the future. Instead, they try to display their knowledge and impress people with what they think they know. The whole exercise is purely academic. It's all in the head and never changes the heart. So prophetic messages should change the heart, not just be in the head. When he got over his weakness and sickness, the prophet went back to work for the king and didn't tell anybody what he had learned, but God still had more truth to teach him, and he was ready to receive it. So what was that? Prophetic,
Students.
um,
Okay.
instead they tried to display
Prophetic
their
knowledge should change the heart, not the head, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not
True
all
pro-
in the head. Never,
True prophecy should change the heart.
yeah,
Would that be a good way to say it? Not just be head knowledge, but change the heart.
right.
Anybody else have any notes they want to share? I'm still a little overwhelmed about these kings.
I'm glad.
So-
I'm just feeling a little lost today. I'm glad it's not just me.
Not just you.
Well, I
I've been a
have
little
one
lost since we started Daniel.
Bits and pieces.
This says. The time of the end in this case refers to the whole period from the end of the exile until the second coming of Christ. Many of these events that would happen under Antioch's Epiphanes, or what his name is, will be repeated on a broader scale just before Christ's second coming. During these times, God deals with Israel in a radically different way, with divine discipline. Israel's being disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
coming through Gentile nations.
That's what they're dealing with right now.
This time is sometimes referred to as the period of the Gentiles. Well, how many times does the Jews have to go through that? I mean, they went through that with Hitler. They went through that here. Babylon.
They're just being open
Egypt.
about it now. They're not hiding. Like Hitler hid it in a way. You know what I mean? Of course, we found out later, but they're not hiding it right now. They're literally slaughtering, and people are cheering it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Slaughtering babies in their beds, and you're cheering that.
yeah.
How animalistic can you be? I have a note here too. It says Antiochus Epiphanes the Great stuffed pig meat down the throat of the priests and slaughtered the pig on the altar, representative of the Antichrist behavior to come. And that comes from history books, probably Maccabees. I wonder what this, I have a note here too. Must have been MacArthur. Maccabees, let me look it up and see if I can find it. He gave me some, there's a reference. Maccabees. Uh, 1:20 through 24. Okay. After Antiochus had defeated Egypt in the 143rd year, he returned and went up against Israel and against Jerusalem with a strong force. He insolently entered the sanctuary and took away the golden altar, the lampstand for the light with all its utensils. The offering table, the cups and bowls, the golden censers, and the curtain, the cornices, the golden ornament on the facade of the temple. He stripped it all off. And he took away the silver and gold and the precious vessels. He also took all the hidden treasures he could find. Taking all this, he went back to his own country. He shed much blood and spoke with arrogance. Okay, that was Maccabees. Okay, then 41 through 50, it says. How lucky are we that we have this at our hands? 41 through 50. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people and abandon their particular customs. All the Gentiles conformed to the command of the king, and many Israelites delighted in his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. The king sent letters by messenger to Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah, ordering them to follow the customs foreign to their land, to prohibit burnt offerings, sacrifices, libations in the sanctuary, to profane the Sabbath and feast days, to desecrate the sanctuary with sacred ministers, to build pagan altars and temples and shrines, to sacrifice swine and unclean animals, to leave their sons uncircumcised, and to defile themselves with every kind of impurity and abomination, so that they might forget the law and change all its ordinances. Whoever refused to act according to the command of the king was put to death. That's what Maccabees says. Anybody have anything else?
Turn on the news.
Anybody
Right there.
fully confused?
Oh, yeah.
Each time it makes a little bit more sense.
Linda says she is too.
Now, rumor has it we're not meeting Monday.
That's right.
Yes.
Because half the people aren't gonna be here, so.
Yeah.
All right, so is today today is Friday.
And it is.
Friday the
Dun, dun,
13th.
dun. We have to
Yeah,
wait till
Friday the
Tuesday.
13th.
Yeah.
Thanks for catching up for the bulletin, Kate, or the email, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
All
I
right.
caught it for the bulletin too, believe it or not.
Because someone's not good at communicating information. All right, that'd be me. Because I'm impulsively going from one thing to the next. Okay, so I'll see some tonight, see the rest of you on Sunday. Linda, we'll see you on Tuesday.
Okay. Sounds good.
All
Bye,
right,
everyone. Have a wonderful day and weekend until I see you
Yeah.
again.
Thank you.
bye, Kathy.